Israel, ani baros osecha, avovetecha, eshtachave el hechal kodshecha, be'yiratecha, atovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Adonai achati me'an betecha, u'mekol mishkan kavodecha, v'ani eshtahave Efracha lifnei Adonai osi, ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Vani tefilati Adonai, et ratzon Elohim barov chazdecha aneni, ve'emet yishrecha, ama tovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Please be seated. Eternal God, we come before you surrounded by members of our community who are very welcome as they arrive. It's lovely to see them all. With them we share our happiness and it becomes greater. Our troubles and they become smaller. May we never be too mean to give nor too proud to receive, for in giving and receiving we discover you and begin to understand the meaning of life. Let us not separate ourselves from the true strength of our community, the experience and wisdom of old people, the hopes of the young, and the examples of care and courage which sustains us. Give us an open mind and a generous heart to welcome those who need us and to admit your presence into our daily life. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozeh Yisrael bigvura. Le'olam yehe adam, yireh shamayim, beseter ugalui, modeh al ha'emet, hadover emet bilvavo. And that word baseter, which means hidden, is relevant to our story because the rabbis sort of pun on the name of Esther, which probably comes from Hadassah, and it's probably a Babylonian god, but they pun on it being hidden because she has to hide her identity, right? And also there's another meaning that the idea that God is hidden, because God does not appear in the Megillah. So the idea is that God's actions are hidden between everyday events, between ordinary people. And the rabbis say that in the Messianic age to come, Purim will be the only festival that survives. Now maybe they just wanted to eat and drink all day, but I think also they're talking about the idea that maybe it's not a world where God, it's a world like ours, where God doesn't intervene with miracles, but God is hidden in everyday life and the natural world. So that's why Purim is the kind of the festival of the future, because it's not a dramatic interventions, but just ordinary goodness and ordinary help. Sovereign of all worlds, we lay our supplications before you. Please feel free to join in, relying not on our merit, but on your abundant mercy. For what are we? What is our life? What our piety? What our goodness? And what our strength? What can we say in your presence, eternal God? Are not the mighty of us as nothing before you, as famous as they have never learned? The learned as if they had no knowledge, the wise as if without understanding. For what we do, Caesar, that our Nevertheless, we are your people,
children of your covenant, and called to your service. Therefore it is right that we should thank and praise you, to proclaim your holiness, and the day is safe before you.
Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matov, Matov, Matov Chakenu. Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matov, Matov, Matov Chakenu. Umanayim, Umanayim, Umanayim Goraleinu. Umanayim, Umanayim, Umanayim Goraleinu. Umanayim, Umanayim, Umanayim Goraleinu. Umanayim, Umanayim, Umanayim Goraleinu. Mayafa, 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 Yehushateinu, Ashreinu. Mayafa, 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 Yehushateinu, Ashreinu. We're in the middle of 1, 2, 4. Baruch Shama B'chaya Ha'olam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Hamulal B'fi Amo, Meshuvah B'fua B'shem Chazidav V'Avadav, B'shvachot V'zmirot, V'nadlecha V'nadnichecha, Makenu Yachidchei Ha'olamim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech Mechulal B'tishvachot. And here we have a lovely poem. I think it's Judah Halevi. Someone can check the footnotes afterwards. But a Spanish Jewish poet of the medieval era. At dawn and dusk I seek you, reach out and look to you. With soul athirst I yearn for you. I am a beggar at your door. The galaxies cannot contain you. Yet you dwell in my inmost being. I hold your glory in my heart. My love for you exceeds my speech. So I'll praise your name, Eternal One, as long as your breath of life remains within me. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen Be'amen. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael, Osei Niflaot Levado. Ubaruch Shem Kevodo Leolam, Yimalei Kvodo Al Kol Haaretz. Amen Ve'amen. Nishmat Kol Hai, Tamarech et Shimcha. Adonai Eloheinu, Baruch Kol Basa, Tevarech Udromem, Zikrecha Malkeinu Tamid, Min Ha'olam, Ve'at Ha'olam, Ata'el, Ata'el. Elohech Rishonim Ha'achronim, Eloah Kol Briot, Adon Kol Toladot, Hamhulal Berov HaTishbachot, Hamanaheg Olamo Bechesed Uvriyotav, Rachamim, L'cha Levadcha Anachnu Modim. Let's read together in English, and that's the second paragraph, 1, 2, 6. Yet though our mouths should overflow with song as the sea,
Our tongues with exaltation as the roaring waves, and our lips with praise as heaven's wide expanse. And though our eyes shine as the sun and moon, our arms spread forth like the wings of eagles, and our feet speed swiftly as hinds. Still we cannot but thank you, Lord God, for your infinite kindness to our ancestors and to us. Therefore the limbs you have formed in us, the spirit you have breathed into us, and the tongue you have set in our mouths, all shall unite and thank and praise, extol you and exalt you, the sovereign God. Every mouth shall thank you, every tongue bear witness to you, every knee shall bend to you, every body bow down to you, every heart shall revere you, and every fibre of our being shall sing your praise.
for so it is written,
All my bones shall say, Who is like you, Eternal One? Therefore we extol you and proclaim your glory, and praise your holy name, as it is said, Praise the Eternal One, O my soul. Let all that is within me praise God's holy name.
For Psalm 93, we'll sing the first 2 verses to achievements tradition of this community, which is actually, I didn't realise until recently, is Mendelssohn. Perhaps everyone knew this already, but I didn't. Charles Salomon, who was a Victorian Jewish composer, very number of pieces are used, but he put various pieces of Mendelssohn. I think Mendelssohn was quite popular because he was obviously a converted, he was Jewish originally, but his father converted, everyone correct me, I want to say his father converted. And Elijah was the most popular one because of course it was a Hebrew Bible, not a New Testament or Oratorian. It's incredibly rich, feels Jewish in some way, or it feels sort of powerful anyway. So lots of this is from Elijah anyway. This melody that you recognise. Adonai malak Yehud lavish Adonai os hitaza avtikon tevel baltimot nachon kisahav meyas meolamata nasau nacharot Adonai nasau nacharot olam nizu nacharot akyam. Now we'll sing from there in a Shlomo Kolobach melody, Mikalot Mayim. Mikalot Mayim, Mayim Rabim, Adirim, Adirim, Mishpareyam. Mikalot Mayim, Mayim Rabim, Adirim, Adirim, Mishpareyam. Adir b'maron, Adir b'maron, Adir b'maron, Adonai, Adir b'maron, Adir b'maron, Adir b'maron, Adonai. Lo tefanenu me'od, leveschana b'kodesh, Adonai le'orek yamim. Please rise. Yishtabach. Let's go lying down in which case fine. Yishtabach shimcha le'ad malkeinu, ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol ha'kadosh, b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki lacham ha'Elohe Eloheinu, v'Elohei avoteinu, shir u'shpacha, halel v'zimra, barachot v'hodahot, ve'ata be'ad olam, Baruch atah Adonai, abohe b'shirei zimra. And continue on page 135. Nine, 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 nine. 136. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yoseh or v'rei choshek oseh shalom v'rei et hakol hama'ir ha'aretz ulahim alecha v'rechamim u'tovo mechadesh v'kol yom ta'amid ma'aseh v'reishit marabu ma'asecha Adonai kulam chokhma asita melach ha'aretz kinenecha תתברך אדוני אלוהינו על שבח מעשי ידיך ועל מורי אור שעשית יברך הסלע ברוך אתה אדוני יוצא המורות. Let's read together in English. Great is your love for us, eternal God.
Abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with help to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you, and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you.
Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael b'ahava. If you'd like to stand for the Shema, please do. It's your choice. There are many traditions. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Leolam Vaed Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lebavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol mo'adecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך ושתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריה. Please be seated. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי וייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, eternal one, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. There, with great joy, Moses, Miriam and all Israel together sang to you this song. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot osei felei nora tehilot osei felei shira chadasha shivchu ga'olim l'shimcha asfat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu ve'amru לעולם ועד. זו ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. Please rise for the Amidah on page 140. Adonai servos tifta ufia gita ilate. Adonai servos tifta ufia gita ilate. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ha'anora El Elyon Komel Chazadim Tovim וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, וחיים לבחר, עזרת שרה. Tagibo le'olam Adonai mechayetim v'tavram l'choshia Mashiv haruach v'merit hageshem Mazriach hashemesh u'marit hatal Machalkel chayim b'chesed V'chayei meitim b'rachamim rabim Shomer noflim v'rofei cholim U'matir asurim ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצביע ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים Baruch atah Adonai, Chayei HaMeitim. L'kadesh Shimcha ba'olam, Kashem shemakdishim oto, B'shmei marom, K'katuv Al yad nevi'echa, k'katuv Al yad nevi'echa, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech kol haaretz, Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomcha malkeinu tofia v'timlok aleinu ki machakim anaknu lach yimlok Adonai leolam Elohai Tzion לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד כל לך, לדור ודור
נגיד גודלך.
ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושמך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
If you'd like to sit, do. If not, stand. Either way, it's fine. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for this opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful and good.
ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג. עם מקדשי שביעי, עם מקדשי שביעי, כולם יספרו ויתענגו מטובך. והשביעי עשית בו וקידשתו, והשביעי עשית בו וקידשתו. חמדת ימין אותו קראת, זכר למעשה, למעשה בראשית.
Read in Hebrew 1-4-3 together. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, rasei v'mnuchatenu, kadshenu b'mitzvotecha, v'ten chalkenu b'toratecha, sabenu mituvecha, samchenu b'shuatenu. Teh libenu la'ovtecha ve'emet, anfilenu Adonai Eloheinu, b'cha v'rotzon v'rat kodshecha, Anuku ba Yisrael, v'tashei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, v'kadesh hashabbat.
וסרנו עליכנו במך ישראל, ותחיל לטעם לחווה תקבל, ותחיל רצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, שתחל בתך בירה נעבוד. מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה אדוני אלוהינו ולהיותנו לעולם ועד. זו חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך, נצווה תהילתך, אחינו המוסרים בידיך. ואל נשמותינו כבודות לך, ואל נכנס ניסך בכל יום עמנו, ואל נפלותיך וטובתך, שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וסוחריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה לך הודות. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, על כל ישראל עמך. בחנו אבינו כולנו כאחד באור פניך, כי באור פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, הן בחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל עמך. תורת חיים באחווה חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום שים שלום טובה וברכה חן וחסד רחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל ואת כל העמים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך שים שלום טובה וברכה הן בחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום. So a few moments of silence and come together in a second. Say shalom bimrama, Huya say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Oh, say shalom bimrama, Huya say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael. We're going to read a part of the theme for Purim, not the parasha, which is on. William, are you up for English reading and helping me? It's okay if you're not.
Which one?
Can we do it a little bit?
Go on. You can do it.
Come up here. Come up with me.
Come on, go back.
I'll help you if it gets too hard. So we're on page 406.
406. Yes.
Yeah, we won't read all of it, but we'll read a bit of it. So, I've got it here. I've got it ready for you. It's all right. It's all right. So, if you can read the English bits flowing from here, okay? Bottom of 406, and then we'll read the responsive sections, okay? Everything?
For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven.
A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance.
Just as when the mouth of begins rejoicing is diminished.
So when the month of Adar begins, rejoicing is increased.
For at this time the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honour.
They had gladness and joy, a feast and a good day.
Rather said on Purim, one should make oneself merry until one can no longer tell the difference between caused by Haman and blessed by
Mordechai. These are quite hard words. Cursed be Haman or Haman, and blessed be Mordechai. Brilliant. Let's go to the bottom of the page now. So we express.
So we express our anger at those who seek to destroy us, but also our appreciation of those who, like the king's chamber, is the Esther story, come to our defense.
Had anyone heard of Chabona before today? To be honest, I hadn't. So it's in the Megillah, like Chabona just pipes up and says, "Oh, King, at the moment of Revelation, Haman was going to hang Mordechai on the gallows," and he's like, that's like his one bit part. But the rabbis say this is like God acting through this humble servant, Chabona. So it's kind of, okay, do you want to carry on? According to Rav?
According to Rav, we should say caused by
Cursed
by Haman, and cursed be his sons.
According to Rabbi Pinchas,
we should say, let Chabona be
remembered for good.
At Purim time, we remember that evil is real and that it is not yet defeated.
So this is what we're going to read in our Torah portion in the Maftir, Shabbat Zachor. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek, lo tishkach. Remember what Amalek did to you, do not forget.
Disappeared under heaven, as his spirit still walks the earth.
At Purim time, we remember it for once, light-heartedly, but we remember too that there are powerful forces of goodness at work in the world, and we look forward to a time when, with God's help and guidance, their victory will be completed.
Thank you, Shakoyach William. Beautiful reading, thank you so much. I don't know a melody for this tune, Shoshanat Yaakov. Does anybody know a melody for it? So we're going to skip that and we're just going to sing Chag Purim on 409. It's the melody that I started the service with. Let's just do it without the words. Once. Yai nai nai, yai nai nai, yai nai 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 nai, yai nai 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 nai, nai nai nai, nai 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 nai, nai 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 nai. Nine 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 nine. Hag Purim, Hag Purim, Hag Gadol Hul Yahudim. Masechot Rashanim Zemir Rikudim. Havana Risha Rash Rash Rash. Havana Risha Rash Rash Rash. Havana Risha Rash Rash Rash. Barashanim. Hag Purim, Hag Purim, ze al ze shulchim manot, machmadim, mamtakim, tefunim umigdanot. Havana risha, rash rash rash, Havana risha, rash rash rash, Havana risha, rash rash rash, Barashanim. And come Monday night downstairs for the full Purim celebration. That is a taster of it. So we'll continue with our Torah service now, which can be found on 481. Do you want your book back, William? Do you want your book back? It's only fair. After you read so beautifully, I give your book back. Surely. 481. So, if you're able to...
It's funny, the traditional liturgy is to rise at the start, and they put the stand in the middle, so you can stand wherever you like, really. En kamocha ve'Elohim Adonai ve'ekam asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol tov ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai Imlok, Leolam Ha'es, Adonai Oz Le'amo Yiten, Adonai Yevarek, Le'amo Shalom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Adonai iti Roma Shemot Yadav Lecha Adonai Adura Adura V'hatiferet V'hanetzach V'ha'achon Yichor B'shamayim Thank you. So we are reading Parashat Tetzaveh. Just before we get to the bit we're reading, it's quite a little tidbit. The start of the parasha of Tetzaveh is contains the line which is the kind of proof text for the Ner Tamid, the eternal light. So it talks about the children of Israel will bring olive oil for the light to cause a lamp to burn continually, which is the Ner Tamid, which we have here. And I didn't know until that you think it's a really ancient custom. It's not. It's about 300 years old. I mean, the idea of lights in the temple, of course, and the menorah is ancient, but the specific Ner Tamid, as far as any historians have found, it's the first reference in Europe 300 years ago. And what I think is interesting is both in the Torah and traditionally would have been an oil lamp. So you would keep having to bring oil, and there would be an active work in keeping the light going. Someone's job would have to be to replenish the oil, and we kind of forget about it because we just leave it on. So the electricity. I think we've got a bulb which kind of imitates a flame. That's quite impressive. I didn't know such a thing existed, but it does. But I think we sort of neglect the Ner Tamid because we don't have to do anything to it. And there's something in that, something in the work that you actually have to do becomes more meaningful than the work that just happens by itself. There's something about community in that, I think. The section we are reading is about the command to create a sort of altar to offer incense on. So we're all about in the tabernacle creating this special holy place that God can dwell in. It's quite technical, but quite rich as well. So we are on page 534 in the Sonsino Chumash. I don't know any other Chumash, I'm afraid. 534. And I'm starting from verse 44. It's about... okay, well, it's a few lines down anyway. So I'll read the English first, and then we'll call up someone to do an aliyah. Someone up for doing?
Not here.
Is someone can do? We've got someone to do aliyah. Will someone do an aliyah, please? Would you like to
Say the blessing.
Yes. We would like to do the blessing. Brilliant. So maybe we'll do that first then. What's your Hebrew name?
Reuben.
Reuben.
יעמוד ראובן לקריאת התורה.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher b'cha b'ayim b'kol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torah tov. Baruch atah Adonai natein ha'Torah.
Amen. And I will sanctify the tent of meeting and the altar. Aaron also and his son will I sanctify to minister to me in the priest's office. And I will dwell among the children of Israel, and they will be their God, and I will be their God. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God that brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell among them. I am the Lord their God. And you shall make an altar to burn incense upon, and acacia wood you shall make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 4 square shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height. The horn shall be of one piece with it. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, the top and the sides thereof round about, and the horns. And thou shalt make it into a crown of gold round about it. And 2 golden rings you shall make under the crown, 2 for the ribs, and 2 for the sides you shall make it. And they shall be places for staves where to hold it. And you shall make the staves of acacia, and overlay them with gold. And you shall put the veil that is by the ark, before the ark cover that is over the testimony. I'm not quite secure in the Hebrew in that. Where I shall meet with them. And Aaron shall burn thereon in incense of sweet spices. Every morning when he dresses the lamps, he shall burn it. And when Aaron lights the lamps at dusk, he shall burn it. A perpetual incense before the Lord throughout generations. He shall offer no strange incense, nor burnt offering, nor meal offering, and you shall pour no drink offering thereon. And Aaron shall make atonement upon the horns of it once in the year, with the blood of the sin offering of atonement. Once in the year he shall make atonement for it throughout your generations. It is most holy unto the Lord. So it's both eternal and constant, but someone's lighting it all the time. וקדשתי, everyone got it in Hamish, yeah? וקדשתי את אוהל מועד, ואת המזבח, ואת אהרון, ואת בניו, אקדש לככן לי. ושכנתי בתוך בני ישראל, והייתי להם לאלוהים, וידעו כי אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אותם מארץ מצרים, ושוכני בתוכם, אני אדוני אלוהיהם. ועשיתי מזבח מקטור קטורת, עשה שיטים תעשה אותו, אמר אורכו ואמר רוחבו, רבוע יהיה, ואמתיים קומתו, ממנו קנותיו. וציפית אותו זהב טהור, את גנו ואת קירותיו סביב, ואת קנותיו, ועשית לו זהב סביב, ושתי טבעות זהב תעשה לי מתחת לזרעו. על 2 צלותיו תעשה, על 2 צדיו, והיה לבתים לבדים, לשאת את בהמה. ועשית את הבדים עצי שיטים, וציפית אותם זהב. נתת אותו לפני הפרוכת, אשר על ארון העדה, לפני הכפורת, אשר על העדות, אשר יבעד לך שמה. והטיע עליו אהרון קטורת סמים, בבוקר, והטיבו. את הנרות יקטירנה. פעלת אהרון את הנרות, בין האביים יקטירנה. קטורת תמיד לפני אדוני לדורותיכם, לא תעלו עליו קטורת זרה, ועולה ומנחה, ונסק לא תזכו עליו. וכיפה אהרון על קנותיו, 1 בשנה, מדם חטאת הכיפורים, 1 בשנה יכפה עליו לדורותיכם, קודש קדשים הוא לאדוני.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, חיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נתן התורה.
Amen. If you don't mind. Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato. Before we just leave that there for a minute and just be seated, I'm going to read the special maftir for Shabbat Zachor. Where traditionally you get another scroll out. I'm not going to do that, but I am going to read it. If you want to follow it, it can be found on page 1114 in the Sonsino, 1114. So it's traditional at certain Shabbat in the year, there's an extra reading, and this is Zachor to do with the memory of Amalek and the Shabbat preceding Purim, and I'll be talking about that a little more in a moment. So 1114. It's just a short. Remember what Amalek did unto you by the way as you came out of Egypt, how he met you on the way and smote those at the back, all that were at the back when you were tired and weary, and he didn't fear God. Therefore it shall be when the Lord God has given you rest from all your enemies round about in the land which the Lord your God gives to you for inheritance and possess it. You shall blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven, you shall not forget. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek b'derech b'tzetchem miMitzrayim asher kocha b'derech ויזנר בך הנחשלים אחריך ואתה עייף ויגע ולא ירא אלוהים והניע אדוני אלוהיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה לרשתה, תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח. Okay, so we can now put away the scroll, and I know that you need to go soon, so I'm conscious of that. And we're now going to have the Haftorah, which is related to that is the Haftarah for Shabbat Zachor, and it's about an incident. Perhaps you'll say something about it. You're not? Okay. Well, it's about this commandment to kill Amalek, and it's about someone who doesn't kill, who's a descendant of Amalek, and God is displeased by this.
So the Haftarah is the first book of Samuel, chapter 15, verses 10 to 26, and it's in the JPSA Tanakh on page 440.
It's in here only in Hebrew, if you really want it, but probably don't.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher b'cha b'nbiim tovim, v'ratzah b'divreihem ha'ne'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, הבוקר בתורה, ובמשה עבדו, ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק. The word of the Lord then came to Samuel. I regret that I made Saul king, for he has turned away from me and has not carried out my commands. Samuel was distressed, and he entreated the Lord all night long. Early in the morning, Samuel went to meet Saul. Samuel was told, Saul went to Carmel, where he erected a monument for himself. Then he left and went on down to Gilgal. When Samuel came to Saul, Saul said to him, Blessed are you of the Lord, I have fulfilled the Lord's command. Then what, demanded Samuel, is this bleating of sheep in my ears, and the lowing of oxen that I hear? Saul answered, They were brought from the Amalekites, for the troops spared the choicest of the sheep and oxen for sacrificing to the Lord your God, and we prescribed the rest. Samuel said to Saul, Stop, let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night. Speak, he replied. And Samuel said, You may look small to yourself, but you are the head of the tribes of Israel. The Lord anointed you king over Israel, and the Lord sent you on a mission, saying, Go and prescribe the sinful Amalekites. Make war on them until you have exterminated them. Why did you disobey the Lord and swoop down on the spoil in defiance of the Lord's will? Saul said to Samuel, But I did obey the Lord. I performed the mission on which the Lord sent me. I captured King Agag of Amalek, and I proscribed Amalek. And the troops took from the spoil some sheep and oxen, the best of what had been prescribed, to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal. But Samuel said, Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obedience to the Lord's command? Surely obedience is better than sacrifice, compliance than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, defiance like the iniquity of teraphim. Because you rejected the Lord's command, he has rejected you as king. Saul said to Samuel, I did wrong to transgress the Lord's command and your instructions, but I was afraid of the troops, and I yielded to them. Please forgive my offence and come back with me, and I will bow low to the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not go back with you, for you have rejected the Lord's command, and the Lord has rejected you as king over Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, tzur kol ha'olamim, sadik b'chol ha'dorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah v'al ha'avodah, v'al ha'nviim v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך, מבורכים אתה. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Shkoya. Shkoya, thank you. So we're going to continue with our prayers for the community, which can be found on page 484. And I seek volunteers for everything, as usual. So, got someone like to start? Let's go for it, don't they, Hannah? Sure.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our Sovereign Lady Queen Elizabeth and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah?
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain.
And can we mark now anyone who's in need of healing that you know, or there's something here? Anyone you'd like to mention?
Cynthia Green. Vivian Lacroix.
Thank you. We pray for healing for them, and for anyone else that's in need of healing in our lives and the lives of our circle of friends and family. Thank you. Carry
And
on.
may we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Continue, someone else?
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Foot of 486. Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizkar Shemo levado, Hado haaretz v'shamayim, Eyav en
Livnei Israel Amperovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
We open the ark. And we're just on page 489. That's what I'm going to go straight to it.
Sorry.
Shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuvah Chadesh Yameinu kegedem Chadesh Yameinu
Shikaya. Thank you, everybody. We knew they had to leave at the start. I didn't think I said nothing, but it was offensive. So, Shabbat Zachor. Shabbat of Remembrance. Now, its main function is a reminder that Purim is coming, and if you haven't baked your hamantashen or organised your fancy dress, then you should do so imminently. But there's a bit more to it than this. It tells us about the story of Amalek, who is the kind of mythological enemy of Jewish people. So, I don't think in the Haftarah we got quite as far as King Agag getting killed. No, but that's what happens afterwards. That he's chastised for not killing him, and eventually he does. So King Agag is supposed to be a descendant of Amalek, and of course Haman is supposed to be a descendant of Amalek. So it's a kind of foundational story. It tells us there will always be people that hate us and seek to do us harm. And in the words of the traditional text of the Haggadah, which says, in each and every generation they rise up to destroy us. It's a narrative that's tremendously influential on us, even today. We often see anti-Semitism as some kind of primordial force of nature that exists outside history, that they will hate us whatever we do. Hatred is irrational, so the story goes. What we can do is remember the hatred, Zachor, and be strong, so when they inevitably come for us, we can defend ourselves and defeat our enemies. But there are some rabbinic texts which tell a different story, one which is both disturbing, I think also comforting. These texts examine Amalek's lineage. How did Amalek come to be Amalek? The Torah tells us that Amalek is the grandson of Esau, the son of Esau's son Eliphaz. Eliphaz took a concubine by the name of Timnah, and Timnah gave birth to Amalek. So the Talmud says in Sanhedrin, it gives this kind of backstory. It says Timnah wanted to become a proselyte, so she went to Abraham, Jacob, Isaac and Jacob, but they did not accept her as a convert. As a result, she went and became a concubine to Eliphaz, the son of Esau. She said, I'd rather be a servant to this people, to the Jewish people, than a mistress of another nation. From her, Amalek, who afflicted Israel, was descended. Why? Because they should not have rejected her. Okay? So this text puts the blame for the emergence of Amalek squarely in the hands of the Avot, our forefathers, the first Israelites. Had they been more welcoming, more accepting of someone coming from outside the tribe, then all the trouble could have been averted. According to a text in Midrash Rabbah, which is kind of made to Midrash collection, the cycle of rejection goes back a generation further, when Jacob tricked Esau out of his father's blessing. The text says, One bitter cry did Jacob cause Esau to cry, as it says, when Esau heard his father's words, he cried an exceedingly loud and bitter cry. That's the Torah quote. And it was paid back to Jacob in Shushan, when his offspring, Mordechai, so they're saying Mordechai is a descendant of Jacob, don't know if it's genealogical or not, cried a loud and bitter cry because of the great trouble that Haman, the offspring of Amalek and Esau, caused the Jews. So this is about, it gives this kind of idea of a multi-generational broigus. It speaks Mordechai as a direct descendant of Jacob and says that Haman's behaviour in the Purim story is some kind of revenge for the sin of Mordechai's father when he deceived his brother and stole the birthright. And there might be an even more direct beef between Haman and Mordechai. Down in Megillah, in fact in Megillah, there's the idea that Mordechai came from a wealthy family and Haman was a poor one, and it actually suggests that Haman was once a slave to Mordechai. It's a really interesting midrash. So together, these texts present a totally different narrative. There's one more which I didn't put down. Actually, let's not go there. Something else. They present a world where hatred is not natural, inevitable, or primordial, but constructed and specific and with roots in particular events. Hatred isn't just something done to us, it has its root in something we've done to others. In our own story, we are always Israel, but to someone else we might be Amalek. We're always the hero in our own story, but there's always multiple stories going on at the same time. We remember well, Zachor, of injustices done against us, but easily forget the things we might have done to others. Hatred is cyclical. It's a scary way of thinking. It's much easier to say that bad things are outside our control altogether, but I think it's also comforting because it gives us some kind of agency over the world if we can change things. I'm wondering if these approaches might have roots in the early development of Judaism. So we know from historians and biblical critics that Israelites were not always monotheists. Shock horror. They were worshippers of Yud-He, Vav-He, or El, but they saw this God as the best God, not necessarily the only God. And as the monotheist idea took hold, in which there was only one God, the problem arises, the infamous problem of evil. If God controls the world and God is good, then why does evil exist? One answer that Judaism came up with in the Second Temple period is a form of what's called apocalyptic mythology. There exist evil spirits in the world, they're subsidiary to God at some level, but they've still got power over the world. So we've got multiple levels of divinity in this kind of transition from a polytheistic world to a monotheistic world. Eventually there's going to be some kind of epic battle at the end of days by which God will be victorious, but for now they cause all sorts of trouble. And this kind of theology, which is not quite monotheism, apparently existed for quite several hundred years. So I think probably the reason why is it gives a good solution to the problem of evil. It says evil comes from a wholly different source. So I think the mythology which emphasises Amalek's timeless evil is intellectual descendant of that approach. That evil is separate, comes from outside, is other. But the other approach that I outlined before is a bit more to do with Purim. It says that God, having created the world, is kind of absent from it, is hiding, and leaving humans to do their best or their worst. Evil doesn't come from outside, but comes from within, from with us, from the things that we decide to do to each other. So I think this theology is quite prevalent in Rabbinic Judaism, and some months ago, those that were here, when it was Tish B'Av, I talked about the story of the Talmud tells of the destruction of the temple, and it says, actually it wasn't about Rome, they say it was all about this petty squabble amongst the Jews between Kamsa and Bar Kamsa about who should have been invited to a party, and it leads to all these arguments, and ends up with Caesar destroying the temple. So the Talmud says it wasn't because of the Romans, it was actually because of the Jews. When bad things happen, we should look to our deeds to see if we've been at fault. It's all the more true if you've got power, and the Maftir, Zachor, says it's when you come into the land, aka when you have power, then you should remember and blot out Amalek. But maybe that means blotting out the Amalek behaviour in yourself, and stopping creating the Amaleks of the future. So this is what I propose for Shabbat Zachor. Remember, of course, But don't just remember the ongoing existence of oppression and hatred. Remember that in a world where God is distant, or even absent, oppression comes from us as well as them. Oppression is cyclical. Oppressors become oppressed, and oppressed become oppressors. I think on a personal level, we all have difficult relationships in our life that weren't always that difficult. If we think hard enough, we can remember a moment when we were overly harsh or mean to someone, which began that meanness, which we now get reflected back to us. Only by remembering that cycle can you have a chance of breaking it. Now, none of that means we shouldn't have a great Purim. I really like Purim. We need the carnival, we need the Bacchanalian, the All Fools Day in English culture, where everything gets turned upside down. But as we cheer Mordechai and boo Haman, and hopefully get so drunk that we can barely tell the difference, let's try and remember there might be a little of both of them in all of us. We will conclude our service with Aleinu on page 520. I'm going to expect they're not going to rush downstairs, I suspect, because we'll see, but we're not late anyway. So, if you're able to stand for Aleinu on 520, then please do so. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אילות, אמת מלכנו אפס עולתו, ככתוב בתורתו. ידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים למעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינות. Let's read together in English. Trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your light, when false gods will vanish from our hearts, and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule, may that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you reign in glory, as is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Life is finite. A candle, it burns, it glows, is radiant with warmth and beauty, and then it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. Yet we do not despair, for we know that we are more than a flickering flame. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and light, of death and life. And in our hearts we name our loved ones. We pray that divine presence will comfort us and all who mourn. And today we remember those that have yard sites today, or this week. Anne Simons, mother of Cynthia Green. Regina Braun, friend of Lindsay Cohen and of Adrian Cohen. Bernard Himmelfarb, father of Linda Pace. Michelle Latchman, mother of Celia Hipgrave, Pearlie Sanderson, mother of Harold Sanderson, Peter Steiner, husband of Anne Steiner. Are there any other names you would like to mention that I'm thinking of?
Gavin Lightman, who died this week.
Yes, thank you. I know his daughter.
Which one?
Thank you. I'll say it afterwards. Yeah. May all their memories be for a blessing, and let's together say the Kaddish for them, and for anyone that hasn't got anyone to say Kaddish for them, on page 524. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Omar divrach yirtzeh yomif malchuteh v'chayet kol yom echon v'chayet kol beit Yisrael v'galav b'zman kariv v'imru amen. Barak ve'olam amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'bahar v'romah v'yitaseh v'yitadar v'yithalel v'yitadar shmei l'kudashah b'richu ve'ayom min kol bechata shirata tush b'chata v'nechanata miran b'alma v'imru amen v'hesh l'marava min shemaya v'chayim ha'egel kol Yisrael v'imru amen oseh shalom b'mamav v'aseh shalom amen kol Yisrael Kol b'nei Adam, v'imru, amen. Please be seated. Do we have any announcements?
Yes.
That's fair.
Can I give them now?
Yeah.
First of all, a big thank you to you, Joseph, because you've taken two roles in one, leader of music and leader of the congregation. You do both superbly. It really is an eye-opener how talented some people are. Anyway, many, many thanks for all the effort you put into it. And I would like to make you all realise that, as Joseph said already, this Monday evening is Erev Purim, and downstairs there's going to be a whole load of celebrations, including reading the Megillah and dressing up and generally enjoying oneself, starting at 6 o'clock. This next Friday the 13th, always a lucky day, there's a joint service here in this Shtiebel of ours, and so it's nice to support it. And on the Shabbat, there's going to be a special Shabbat downstairs, Shabbat Refreshed, and we're also going to say goodbye to our caretaker Raj, who's been with us for 17 years. There's going to be thanks and a presentation, I believe, to him. So there's a lot going on. Thank you very much.
Hannah, can I just add that you mentioned about Raj, but I have here a card which all those who remember Raj, and as Hannah says, he started in the old building at Western Road 17 years ago, and has been with us ever since there, and then to here, of course. So anybody who would like to sign this card for Raj, which we shall be presenting to him after Kiddush next Saturday morning with a presentation.
Thank you very much.
We're gonna end with something quite unusual. This is a Ladino Purim song, a Judeo-Spanish Purim song, which I found this week from, I think it's from Gibraltar. Rather fun. I'll hand out sheets. I think we have enough to go around. And do you want to pass them out?
Yes,
I'll just start singing the tune now. It's not that easy because it's old tunes. It's nice though. Na 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 So, Haman Mamzer, it doesn't. Mamzer is a technical category in halakha, but here it just means bastard, definitely. It's just an insult. So if we, you pronounce it like Spanish, basically. I'm not expert on the pronunciation, so don't worry too much. But if we just learn the chorus a little bit, so the italics are the chorus. It comes 3 times. So it's like this: Comamos bebamos. Let's try that. Comamos, bebamos. Y también nos emborrachemos. Let's try that. Y también nos emborrachemos. He's drunk, it seems. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Try that. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. And this is again those words. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Try that. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. So at least you can try and join that. Join anything. You're like, it goes like da 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 dum, ya da 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 da. Haman mamze el malo, chato del anquila. Al Israel el bueno, el que todo se de ada. Comamos, bebamos, y también nos emborrachemos, y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Achverosh beotente se metió una fuente y vino la serpiente y saqueó su diente. Comamos, bebamos y también nos emborrachemos y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Ordenaron de Dios que demos hacer grandes chicos y vallados, todo el pueblo de Israel. Comamos, bebamos y también nos emborrachemos. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. Y alegres estemos del bueno de Israel. So that's something a little different. So I wish you that we all have the courage of Esther, the ability to see God in the hidden things, and to have occasional evenings that are so joyous that you can't tell the difference between Haman and Mordechai. Shabbat Shalom.
I have a question.
Let's talk afterwards. Yeah, let's end the service, and I'm happy to chat with you, John.
Okay.
So we'll go downstairs. Yes.
Got in a fountain.
Yes.
Fountain and wine.
Yes.
Or it was a silver.
I think wine is compared to a snake. I think it's a kind of metaphor for the power of alcohol.
But it's true? It's reality?
No, it's a story. Oh, in the Megillah, does it get into a fountain? I don't think
The
so.
Bible doesn't say.
I don't think so, no. I think it's a... Thank you. What? No.
Oh, yes, because of this, yes.
You're singing it, it's always very helpful.
It's fun when you know the good opportunity.
Ah, okay. And Sarah. I don't know Esther. I know Sarah from years ago. And the two children. I have met her. Yeah. That's right.
He's the third.
Has the ship finished? No. I should try and go.
Tomorrow.
She was tired by that point. Yeah, but she was nap time. There are lots of traditions that are not in the Megillah, that are like folk traditions that are like...
It's just a song, it's not
It's just a song.
part of the Bible.
Just a song. Just a song.
But sometimes songs, they have some chorus.
Of course, yeah.
Something there.
Of course, yeah.
I'm interested to read the life of the king.
I mean, I've got two generations deep. My husband has got conversation.
You have the history of the Persian. Everything.
There's no reference to the Purim story in the Persian records.
The book of Esther was introduced inside the
Why not? Yeah.
because
It may not be true. Yeah.
no. Because of lack of history. There was no history to look inside Greek.
Well, if you do that all the time, you don't cut your own page.
Perhaps, yes.
So what is the Hebrew?
Hester, like...
Esther.
Yeah,
Because the Hester means the start of the morning. As well.
Set here, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, come on, it's great. I think it's, when they say, it's like a mark of mine. Well, I had this one doctor doing the mark. He's got these statistics.
Yes.
And he said, it's actually not bad because you're 79, but you've got a score of a 77-year-old. Well, it's better than having an 85-year-old.
Yeah. We're in Sanhedrin.
I looked it up, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I mean, it was internet research, it wasn't like...
Well, it's nice that you can sort of think that you put the two of them. But let's face it,
Yeah.
The internet.
did you
No, you know the website, Safari.
Oh, Safari.
Yeah, that's what I mean, it's like... Use that.
Yeah, I have Safari on as well, but they don't
mustn't say it's a bad thing.
No, but if you look, there are sheets, other people's source sheets, and then you can go back and you can look at them, and then, so you can help, and then you can go access from there. And you can see, yes, there's
On the day of the, we only have one Saturday.
sorry, I didn't know.
Yes.
You managed to
Oh, do you? Oh, really? Yeah, there's a camera.
Yeah.
No, I did have.
That's nice to be turned on.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? That's interesting, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the only one, because Rob Collins, you remember Rob Collins?
Yeah.
Apparently he follows it every week, well, about every week, but anyway, in Sri Lanka.
Really?
Because he moved, emigrated, whatever. Anyway, moved to Sri Lanka some years ago. And yeah, he, so if we remember, hello Ron,
You should
still with there, hello Ron, if you're still there.
Where's your son?
Oh yeah,
As far as I know. So you should feed in what you think.
We just had a Spanish.
no, I see what you mean.
No, I know, they are about to employ you.
Well, this is all the reform painting, which well, both. Like he's retired. He's 70.
I'm not. Well, I mean, like, I'm happy doing what I do in the sense that
Yes,
they want to do it for 5 years, and they want to go back for 5 years.
Well,
Lots of friends of mine.
yeah, the same site, but
It's long.
the
I feel like
the two-story building that we had, the nice building,
the American ones.
which we had for 7 years until we had to go. So we could, but before that, you remember the
Sorry, yeah,
the single-story building.
I was thinking that. I'm thinking of the disaster of the second building.
Well, it wasn't just
I ignored it.
it was a nice building. Eventually, it wasn't so good, but it wasn't not good.
It wasn't thought through, was it? So, we can't blame the...
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Quite nice.
So what do you...
No, I'm just saying that it was an ego trip.
Yeah, see
Well, it was he who designed it, but I thought it was a nice
No,
building.
it was ego trip to have it.
Well, all right, if you like. Well, okay, I see what you mean, yes. Well, the other place, the old building was causing a problem.
Yeah,
Single story.
I know it's easy to be wise off. I'm wise off. The thing is that
But it was causing a problem.